Hello everyone, this is Huafang Li. Today we are going to talk about leadership in this short video. Here we mainly discuss two things. First, in general, are leaders born or made? And the second one is, are leaders a hero or more like a negotiator? So let me explain in details later. So let's tackle the first question. Are leaders born or made? Now there's been a Minnesota twin study, so basically comparing the identical twins, which means they share 100% of their genes are the same, and fraternal twins, which share half of them, their genes are the same on average. Okay, so what did this study tell us? Meaning, among the twins, one kind of go to the leadership position while the other don't. Then you compare the difference. So the results show that generic factors can explain about 30% of individual variations in terms of whether or not people hold the leadership positions. Okay, so the implication for this is if generic factors can't or determine some sort of leadership, that means leaders cannot be educated or trained because you can't alter generic factors so far, right? And the implication, of course, would be like if that's only counts like 30%, which means a large portion would be influenced by other factors other than generic factors, like environmental factors, especially working experience, right? We in experiential philanthropy videos, we talked about the importance about direct first-hand experience and how that can help people become future leaders, philanthropic leaders, right? So in this case, more generally, if working experience is so important, then maybe the implication would be leaders can be trained, okay? So another study done a little bit earlier also look at like a behavioral generic investigation of the leadership style, right? So basically the same area, same results, same area, same results, and only a slight different variations, right? Depending on the sample, maybe. Okay, so the general conclusion would be leaders, like within one leader, right? At least something born with the leader. While more importantly, whether individuals with leadership gene, let's say, to simplify the analysis, become leaders or not, largely depends on other factors such as the environment, which means even like we say we put a huge weight on the generic factors, but in order to let those generic factors being effective and be determine whether or not one became a leader, then we need to create some sort of environmental structure to let those generic factors to be effective, right? So that means the environmental factors are actually very important in determining whether or not someone can be a leader. All right, so the implication for this is obviously very substantial for organizations, right? If you believe like leaders are born, and then maybe you put less weight or less effort on training and give them working experience because since they are more like born with the leadership, right? But on the other hand, if you believe like leaders are made, and you also believe like they can be trained, they can be educated, right? They can gain experience from their daily job, and then they grow, become a leader, right? So that represents two very different paths to train or to hire leaders, right? So if you believe leaders is more like they were born, then you tend to acquisition from outside, like hire from outside, from the market, right? But if you do believe leaders can be made, then you of course can develop them, right? Train them, educate them, so cultivate them from internally. So this represents very different approaches and would definitely influence the resource allocation to train the workforce and develop your leaders. Okay, so we also talked about the Capelli's study, the talent management for the 21st century, right? So the idea is, okay, in-house development is costly, right? So sometimes people say, okay, market competition would pick those talented people out. So the only thing you should do is just by hiring from outside. But this is also related to the previous approach, right? Whether or not you believe those talents are born or are made. So if you believe they are born, then you are more likely to hiring from outside. If you think they are made, then you can development from inside or internally. Okay, so that represents two very different talent management strategies or leadership development strategies within an organization. All right, so but our general sense is leadership can be practiced or learned even with a substantial portion of the factors are actually determined generically. But anyway, to let those generic factors to be effective, we also need to create an environment to force them, and so that they can benefit leaders. So the next question is, should a leader be a hero or a negotiator? So hero mainly say, okay, I take charge, right? So usually you don't consult others because you act like a hero, usually independently, right? And the negotiator, on the other hand, is quite different. Negotiators are always a collaborator, right? So it's very, very collaborative, make decisions like together, right? Consult different opinions, consider various scenarios, and etc. Involve shareholders, stakeholders, and to make a collective decision. So it's more like a facilitator and negotiator, right? Okay, so is there really like a different distinction? Say, okay, whether a leader should be a hero or a negotiator. Now, for the public sector, as we already talked through the sector difference, right? Because public sectors usually have multiple goals, right? You need to involve multiple stakeholders. So it's not easier for a single person to make a decision. So that's why public leaders tend to be collective or tends to be a negotiator rather than a hero. Okay, so the studies so far basically agrees that public leadership should be collective leadership, right? So public leadership as a collective, multi-level, cross-sector endeavor imbued with public values. And so the leadership, public leadership, is for the common good, for the purpose of creating public value, right? So the inspiration of others to undertake collective action in pursuit of the common good. So most likely when we talk about public leadership, you are always to engage words like common good, public values, etc., right? So which means that represents a collective decision of what's good, right? What's exactly are the public values. Okay, so there are different leadership styles within the public sector. Okay, now it also might be applied to the private and nonprofit sector as well, right? So here we talk about the leadership styles among the public sector. So from the transformational leadership to leadership member exchange to shared distributed leadership and to collective leadership. So from the first to the last, the first is more like leader-centered, more like a hero role, right? And until the collective one, of course, more likely the system-centered and more likely to make a collective decision and more likely the leader are going to act like a negotiator rather than a hero. Okay, so that's a very brief introduction about leadership. We talk about are leaders born or made, because which approach you believe going to influence the leadership development strategies an organization will adopt. And then we talked about the public sector leadership, right? So for the public sector leadership, public leaders are more like a negotiator rather than a hero. All right, that will be all for this short video. Thank you very much.